Well, let's get more analysis about some of the challenges women still have to face. Amy Diehl is the Chief Information Officer at Wilson College and a gender bias expert. Great to have you with us, Amy. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of discussion about how we overcome gender bias. And then you look at how women in an entire country are suffering because of their gender. How do you even start to tackle gender bias, which is baked into the very culture?
Well, thank you so much for having me. This day is so important because not only is it a day to celebrate women's achievements, but it's also a day where we can recognize that while we've come far, gender inequality is still very rampant across all of our societies. And hence, it's really important that we raise awareness of bias and discrimination and then take action for equality. We can all imagine a world that's gender equal, free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive, where difference is valued. Yet we're not there yet. Women are 70% of the world's poor, and we are not paid equitably when compared to men. In the United States, for example, women make only 83 or 84% of men's earnings, and it's even the numbers are even worse globally. The global average is about 68%. This difference in pay hurts women not just through their working years, but it also leads to inequity when they're done with their working years and they're in retirement. When we think about gender bias and discrimination, there's lots to think about, and the thing that always sticks in my mind is that we as women are all subject to it, no matter what society, what country, what state, where you live, where you work. We are all facing gender bias and discrimination. In my research, my co-authors and I have broken down gender bias into its 6 primary components. These 6 components are, first, male privilege, which dominates societies and workplaces. Disproportionate constraints that are placed on women, such as how and when they communicate, what jobs they're steered toward. Insufficient support, they lack mentoring, sponsorship, and they're excluded from spaces where decisions are made. Next is that their work and contributions are devalued, both monetarily and through lack of being given proper credit. And then the fifth component is hostility, such as harassment, which is used to keep women in line and keep them fearful of speaking up. And then finally, last but not least, is acquiescence, where as a result of dealing with all the other barriers, women may limit their aspirations and remain silent. And all of this has the goal of maintaining men's privileged place in society.
So, Amy, what can be done to overcome gender bias, and who has to do it? I mean, are we talking about governments? Are we talking about men? Are we talking about organizations, schools, education? Where does it come from?
We're talking about all of the above. The first thing I'll say is the onus should not be put on individual women. And that's done far too often. Too many people try to fix the women, and that's not the direction to go. It's not where change can happen. So the onus really needs to be put on those in power, in organizations and in government. People who are in power need to promote women into positions of leadership, and they need to create equitable reward structures and supports. Things like subsidized childcare, paid family leave, flexible work, things that help women to contribute to society as decision makers and as innovators, as well as to earn equitable livings to support their families. And then all of the rest of us, not everybody's in a position of power to make organizational or governmental change, but all of us can be allies and can be bystanders. We can speak up to support women. And I always like to give this one little quick example, and that's if you're in a meeting, let's say, and you hear a woman give an idea and it isn't acknowledged, make sure that she's getting credit. Hey, Jane just said that. You want to make sure that you're advocating and supporting women in their professional and personal circles. Another thing I like to go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to say that is really good advice. And I think just trying to support women wherever you can, it makes a really big contribution and difference to how women are perceived and how their value is perceived. Amy, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Great to hear from you. Amy Diehl there.